Hey everyone! Today, we're going to explore a really interesting and fundamental concept in programming, looping through data. Specifically, we'll dive into how to iterate over an array of objects in JavaScript using 5 different types of loops: foreach, for, doWhile, forIn, and while. Looping is a core aspect of programming that allows us to perform repetitive tasks efficiently. Whether you're dealing with a small dataset or a large collection of information, knowing how to navigate through each item is crucial. In real-world applications, you might find yourself needing to display a list of users, calculate the sum of numbers in an array, or apply transformations to a set of items. That's where these loops come into play. Each type of loop has its own unique use case and benefits. For instance, the foreach loop is tailor-made for arrays and offers a simple syntax for executing a function on each array item. The classic for loop gives you fine-grained control over the iteration process, making it super versatile. On the other hand, while and doWhile loops are great when you need to keep looping until a certain condition is met, even if you're not sure how many iterations you'll need. Lastly, the forIn loop is particularly useful for iterating over the properties of an object, though it can be used with arrays too. Understanding these loops and when to use them will greatly enhance your coding toolkit, making you a more effective and efficient programmer. They help you write cleaner code, reduce errors, and handle complex data structures with ease. Now let's dive into the code and see each of these loops in action. Let's break down the code and go through each step in detail, focusing on the different loops used to iterate over an array of objects. Our primary goal is to understand how each loop works and what we aim to achieve with it. This tutorial will guide you through the process, explaining the significance of each part of the code. Creating an array of objects. The first step in our code involves creating an array named items, which contains 100 objects. Each object has a single property, ID, which is assigned a unique value from 1 to 100. This is accomplished using array.from method, which creates a new array instance from an array-like or iterable object. The length 100 parameter specifies the size of the array, and vi =ID I+1 is a mapping function that assigns an ID property to each object, with its value set to the current index +1. This array serves as the dataset that our loops will iterate over, demonstrating different techniques to access and manipulate array elements. For each loop. The foreach loop function illustrates how to use the foreach method, which is specifically designed for arrays. The foreach method calls a provided function once for each element in an array, in order. In this case, we pass a function that takes item as an argument and logs item, ID, to the console. This demonstrates how to perform an operation on each element of an array in a straightforward and readable manner. The foreach method is beneficial for its simplicity and direct approach to iterating over array elements without managing the loop counter or condition manually. For loop. Next, we explore the traditional for loop within the for loop function. This loop starts with an initialization, let I = 0, followed by a condition, I item's length, and an increment expression, I++. In each iteration, it accesses and logs the ID of each item in the items array using items of byte ID. The for loop is highly versatile and gives you complete control over the iteration process, including where to start, how to increment, and when to stop. It's particularly useful for scenarios where you need precise control over the index variable. While loop. The while loop function uses a while loop, which continues to execute its code block as long as the specified condition is true. We initialize a variable I to 0 and then loop until I is no longer less than the length of the items array. Inside the loop, we log the ID of each item and increment I by 1. The while loop is ideal for cases where the number of iterations is not known before the loop starts, or when the loop's continuation condition is based on something other than a counter. doWhile loop. In the doWhile loop function, we demonstrate a doWhile loop, which is similar to the while loop, but guarantees that the code block is executed at least once before the condition is tested. This loop is useful when the code inside the loop needs to run at least once, regardless of the condition being true or false initially. After executing the code block, the condition is checked to determine if another iteration should occur. This loop's primary use case is when at least one iteration is required, which is not guaranteed with a standard while loop. For .in loop. Lastly, the forIn loop function uses a for .in loop to iterate over the array. However, it's worth noting that for.in is primarily designed for iterating over the properties of an object, not an array. In this context, it iterates over the index of each array element as a string, not the element values themselves. This can be less efficient and might lead to unexpected results, especially with arrays that have non-sequential indices or additional properties. Despite its use here, for.in is best suited for object property enumeration rather than array iteration. Each of these loops offers a unique approach to iterating over data structures, with specific use cases where they excel. Understanding these differences enables developers to choose the most appropriate loop for their needs, enhancing code readability, efficiency, and maintainability. In wrapping up our exploration of loops in JavaScript, it's crucial to understand how these concepts fit into the larger picture of web development. Whether you're building dynamic web applications, handling data fetched from APIs, or creating interactive user interfaces, knowing how to efficiently iterate over data is fundamental. The loops we've discussed today, foreach, forWhile, doWhile, and forIn, each serve unique purposes and offer different benefits when applied in the context of JavaScript technologies. In a bigger application, the choice of loop can impact both the performance and readability of your code. For instance, foreach and for loops are highly efficient and straightforward for iterating over arrays, making them a go-to choice for tasks like rendering UI components from an array of data or applying transformations to a list of items. These loops, especially the for loop, are often seen as the most efficient due to their simplicity and direct control over the iteration process. On the other hand, the while and doWhile loops provide flexibility for handling more complex conditions, where the number of iterations isn't known up front. They are especially useful in scenarios where you need to keep executing a block of code until a certain condition is met, such as waiting for a user action or processing streamed data. The forIn loop, while less commonly used for array iteration, shines in the context of objects where you need to enumerate properties. However, in web development, where processing and presenting data efficiently is key, understanding when and how to use each of these loops can significantly enhance the extensibility and reusability of your code. In terms of efficiency, ranking these loops might seem straightforward, with for and foreach often leading the pack due to their direct approach and minimal overhead. However, efficiency isn't just about raw performance. It's also about writing maintainable and readable code. Thus, the winning loop is the one that best suits your particular use case, balancing speed with clarity. Integrating these looping constructs into larger applications not only boosts performance, but also ensures your code base remains scalable and easy to manage. For example, modularizing your JavaScript by encapsulating loop logic into functions makes your application more maintainable and allows for code reuse across different parts of your application or even across projects. Thanks for watching, everyone, and don't worry if you missed anything. We've added a link to the source code in the description. If you found this video to be helpful, please like and subscribe for more of the same. Thanks again, and remember, we're always learning, so keep coding, keep exploring, and keep building amazing web applications.